I'm Amanda, the ever hopeful gardener, and today I'm going to show you how you can grow ginger and turmeric in your own garden. But first, let me show you my ginger and turmeric harvest from this past year. This is my ginger harvest. I didn't have to peel it because when you grow your own ginger, it doesn't get that tough skin like you see at the grocery store. And I like to keep my ginger in the freezer because it's super easy to grate and chop ginger when it's frozen. As for my turmeric harvest, this is it. And I know it doesn't look like much, but that's because I decided to slice it up, dehydrate it, and then grind it into a powder because that's my preferred way to consume it. I like to put it in teas and soups, on pasta, pretty much anything. To grow your own ginger and turmeric, the first thing you need to do is figure out your average first frost date. A lot of us gardeners, we pay attention to our average last frost date because that's when we can plant things out, but your first frost date is going to help you know when you need to start your turmeric and ginger. Ginger and turmeric can be slow growers, especially starting them, and they need on average 9 months of warm growing weather. All you need to do is plug in average first frost date and your zip code into Google, and that will give you your average first frost date.
Just to show you how easy it is, I'll go ahead and plug my information in and we will see what we get. AI is saying around November 8th. If you don't trust AI, you can scroll down and usually the Old Farmer's Almanac is the next thing that pops up and it's showing October 30th.
Mine is November 1st. I'm going to back up 9 months from November 1st, and that's February 1st. So I would not want to start my ginger and turmeric any later than February 1st. If, however, your average first frost date is October 15th, back it up 9 months and you're at January 15th. So now you see why December and January are really good times to start your ginger and turmeric indoors. The second thing you need to do, procure said ginger and turmeric. You don't need to order your ginger and turmeric online. You can simply find a grocery store near you that sells it. Foreign food markets are typically a great place to look. I have found it at Fresh Market and Whole Foods as well. I personally prefer to pick organic ginger and turmeric to grow because then I know that it has not been sprayed with anything that's going to inhibit growth. All right, step number 3 is you're going to divide your clumps of ginger and turmeric into smaller pieces. Sometimes your ginger and turmeric will come in clumps the size of your hand. That's a bit wasteful to plant a clump like that. Not saying you can't, but on average, clumps the size of your thumb are usually perfect for planting. But what you want to make sure of is that it has an eye, like a growth node on the piece that you're planting. Otherwise, it's probably not going to grow. So when you divide your ginger and turmeric, you're going to want to let it sit for 24 hours so that the cut parts of it can scab over. This reduces the chance that when you pot those pieces up, that they might rot. All right, 24 hours later, and we have let our ginger and turmeric pieces scab over where we cut them, and now we can plant them.
When I'm potting up my turmeric and ginger, I am using just any good organic potting mix. If it doesn't contain a lot of nutrition in it, I'm going to augment that nutrition with a little bit of my Kickass Frass. I'm going to use these individual 2.5-inch pots to pot up my turmeric and ginger. I'm going to use blue ones for the ginger and yellow for the turmeric, just so I can keep them straight without having to label. I'm going to fill the pot up about 3/4 full. I'm going to take my piece of ginger and I'm going to plant it with the growth points pointing up. Then I'm going to cover it with more potting mix. And there you go. If you don't have pots like these, that's okay. Your ginger and turmeric don't care what you get them started in. You could even use repurposed food containers. If you have holes in the bottom of them, if you put holes in with like an ice pick or something, then you'll want to put it on a tray so that when it drains water, it doesn't get all over the place. Or if you're extra careful with how you water, you don't need to do holes. You can just nestle our pieces in like this, and you can put a bunch together. All right, you've got all your ginger and turmeric potted up. What is next? I'm going to water them in. And then I could just leave it just like this. But because they are tropical plants and love heat, they will benefit from being put on a heat mat. Also going to put on a humidity dome. Not necessary, but I know myself, I am not great about watering, and this will just mean I have to water a little bit less often. All right, they do not need lights yet. They only need light once they have sprouted above the soil. And even then, I don't think a grow light is truly necessary. You could put them in a kitchen window or a sunny spot, and I think they'll do just fine. I, however, will be putting them under a grow light because I have one handy. If you're choosing to use upcycled food containers to sprout your ginger and turmeric, the same process applies. We're going to water them in. They would benefit from being on a heat mat, but it is not necessary. Something to consider though is, where are you going to keep your ginger and turmeric while they're waiting to sprout? If you have them in a cold garage or a cold basement, they will really benefit from being on a heat mat. If you have them in your house and you keep your house around 70 degrees in the winter, it's probably just fine without one. We've watered them in. I'm going to use the top of the takeout food container for the humidity dome. And because I don't have any more room on my heat mat, this one's just gonna sit on the bench next to the others. But there's no room on the bench. Let's see. Now, the hardest part of the whole process. You just have to sit and wait. Ginger and turmeric can be very slow to get started. Sometimes they take on average of a month or more before you'll see anything sprout above that soil line. If you get super impatient, like I've done in the past, you can dig around down in that pot and just see what's going on. What you're looking for are those growth nodes, those eyes to start swelling up like they're about ready to sprout. But otherwise, just sit tight until planting time. And when is planting time? All right, let's get back on Google. You're going to Google average last frost and your zip code. For me, it's April 1st. That is like the time of year where the chance of frost happening after April 1st is very slim. And that is when I can plant out my seedlings in the garden. Then you're gonna let your seedlings grow in your garden all summer long. And right before your first frost, you are going to watch the weather, and then you're going to harvest all of your ginger and turmeric. All right, now, ginger and turmeric can be slow to grow and sprout. So just because you don't see, are you gonna go work out? Because